What's up, lovers of whiskey and watchers of YouTube? I'm the Malt activist, and this is the One Whiskey Challenge. Let's go. Now, the One Whiskey Challenge has been running around whiskey YouTube for about a while now, and normally how it works is you get nominated by a fellow whiskey tuber once they do their One Whiskey Challenge, and I've been nominated by myself. Because, you know, I waited for a few weeks to see who would nominate me, but apparently no one cares. So I decided to nominate myself and do the One Whiskey Challenge just by myself without being asked. So yes, so welcome to the pathetic channel. Haha, no, that's cool, man. I couldn't wait to get nominated. I'm sure somebody would have at some point, but you know what? I'm just happy to do this challenge. Now, this challenge is quite simple. Basically, what you have to do is you have to decide which is that one whiskey you would drink for the rest of your life. And there's very few caveats. The One Whiskey Challenge is very, very simple. It shouldn't be rare. It shouldn't be super pricey, and you cannot drink anything else for the rest of your life. So, wow, I had to give this one a lot of thought, but I think I've arrived at a whiskey that I wouldn't mind drinking for the rest of my life. So, if you want to know what that one is, strap in. But before we do that, there are a few contenders in there as well, right? So this is what I'm doing. Right? I'm making two lists. One list is not impacted by price or rarity or availability or whatever, right? This is my dream list. If I could drink this particular whiskey for the rest of my life, regardless of how much it costs, whether it's available or not, whether it's discontinued or whatever it is, if I could do that, I would do that, right? So that's my dream list, if you like. So I've got 5 whiskeys on there, with one being the eventual winner. And the second part of this video is I'll narrow down 4 runner-ups, right? 4 runner-ups of whiskeys that I can manage to find on a daily basis, which are affordable and they meet all the criteria for the One Whiskey Challenge. And finally, I will reveal to you what is that one whiskey that I do not mind drinking for the rest of my life. Are you ready? All right, let's go. Okay, here we go. So first, the 4 runner-ups in the Dream One Whiskey Challenge. All right. Some caveat, I've drunk all of these whiskeys before. I've enjoyed them tremendously, and I'm very happy to state that every single one of them is in this bar. I can imbibe on it at any point. However, I have very, very limited quantities, so I do not want to get into, quaffing them. So I drink them very rarely on very special occasions. All right, so whiskey number 5. Again, these are in no particular order. It just so happens to be that way. For my Dream One whiskey is the Ardbeg Alligator. Yes, the Ardbeg Alligator committee release. This one is bottled at 51.2% ABV. It's a mix of new American oak and ex-bourbon barrels. Now, I remember drinking this whiskey for the first time, I want to say maybe 10 years ago, I think, when it was released around that time. And I was like, oh, this has everything, right? This has the makings of just an absolute beast. And the reason it's called the Alligator is because the new oak barrels were charred to level 4 charring, which broke the skin inside, and it's affectionately known as the alligator char. And so roughly 25% of this whiskey that was matured in the alligator char barrels was mixed with 10-year-old whiskey from ex-bourbon barrels, which was the 10-year-old Ardbeg, married together, left for a year to chill out and relax, kind of making it an 11-year-old whiskey, but it is a non-age statement. However, the taste. It's one of the best whiskeys I had long time ago, and that kind of propelled me further into finding more about smoky peaty whiskeys, especially whiskeys from Ardbeg, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thanks very much to the Ardbeg Alligator. So yeah, so if there's one whiskey that I don't mind drinking for the rest of my life, it could be the Ardbeg Alligator. But we have more to talk about. In the same vein, we also have the Lefroy 25. Now I've picked the 2018 release, which is bottled at 52% cask strength, and it is an ex-bourbon barrel whiskey as compared to some of the other releases, which were both Oloroso sherry, ex-Oloroso, and ex-bourbon cask. But the 2018 release, which is bottled at 52%, is purely ex-bourbon, and that's kind of how I like my Lefroy's, and it is so wonderfully balanced. That lemon, lime, citrus, smoke, hint of iodine, that everything is just in wonderful balance. I've drunk that whiskey many times. It's one of my favorite drams. Of course, they won't ever release the 2018 ever again because that year is long gone. However, yeah, I think if you were to give me a Lefroy 25 and say, man, you're never going to drink anything else again, drink this, I think I'd be perfectly happy. I'd be perfectly happy. The next one on the list is the Highland Park Freya. Now, for those of you who don't know, Highland Park has a very sort of Viking-inspired history, very Nordic, and they love that. And a few years ago, they came out with a series which is called the Valhalla series. It was named after different gods in Nordic culture. There was Loki, and then there was Freya. Now Freya is an absolute gem of a whiskey. I think I have it up here. Can you see that? I think you can just see the base. You can see the base of that packaging presentation, which is like a Viking boat made out of wood, and the Freya in a green bottle sits beautifully inside it. So now the Freya is bottled at 51.2% ABV. It's a 15-year-old whiskey matured exclusively in ex-bourbon barrels. And if you've been a follower of this channel for a while, and if you know me personally, you know that my weakness is high-strength whiskeys matured in ex-bourbon barrels, done to perfection, and the Freya is no exception. It is an absolute corker of a dram. I absolutely love it. A lot of the Highland Parks, as you know, are influenced with sherry, but the Freya is an exception, and it is just wonderfully balanced, beautiful flavors, as you'd expect from a good, solid, pristine ex-bourbon barrel and a wonderful distillate, which is testament to what Highland Park can do when they put their minds to it. And I think this Valhalla series is absolutely amazing. I even love the Loki. The Loki, I believe, is a 16-year-old whiskey. It is also gorgeous. But I think I love the Freya. The Freya is amazing, and I would gladly not drink anything else for the rest of my life if I was given the Freya. So this one, this was a tough one to come in as a runner-up because I remember when I drank it, my mind was absolutely blown away. It is probably the most tastiest whiskey I've ever drunk in my life. I'm talking about the Brora 30-year-old, bottled in 2010. I have a bottle up here somewhere. I remember drinking this at a bar in Australia, and it cost me a pretty penny because I didn't want to open my bottle just yet because I thought I'll open my bottle and it's going to get finished, and I just wanted to keep it and open it up on a very, very special occasion. I hopefully have a couple coming up. But I was in a bar in Australia, Feathers, I believe. I think it was in Sydney. And I ordered a dram with it. It wasn't too expensive at that time, maybe about $50. Given that it's a Brora and it has all the legacy behind it. And it just blew my mind. It was wonderful. It's bottled at 54.2% ABV. Cask strength, it's a mix of ex-bourbon, ex-sherry cask. And I mean, I don't really have to tell you how good Broras are or why it's made this list, of the One Whiskey Challenge. And if you haven't had a Brora, I guess try a Klein Leash. It's not the same, but I think it's a close second. But if I could drink this Brora 30 for the rest of my life, I think I would, and I wouldn't mind it at all. So, but I'm happy to. Unfortunately, it did not make the top spot because the top spot is something very, very special. All Alrighty then, so this one whiskey, this one dream whiskey of mine that I would gladly drink for the rest of my life and not drink anything else is, I think without a doubt, the Balvenie Tun 1401. I have the batch 8 and you know what, if I drank that whiskey every day for the rest of my life, I would not be complaining about absolutely anything, because this whiskey is an essay in perfection, an absolute essay in perfection. It's craftsmanship at the highest level, right? So this is bottled at 50.2% ABV. It's a mix of 45% sherry cask, 55% bourbon cask. And for those of you who don't know, the 1401 Tun is basically a 2,000 liter vessel that sits in the Balvenie warehouses. And basically what you do is they would put some really old whiskey. So there's up to 14 to 16 casks in that tun, in that 2,000 liters, ranging from whiskeys as old as 44 years and as young as 22 years. So batch 8, I believe the oldest whiskey in that tun is 44 years and the youngest whiskey is 22 years. And before it hit the secondhand market, it was remarkably affordable. I think it sold for about 150, 200 pounds, which I think is an absolute steal for a combination of whiskeys where the oldest one is 44 years old and the youngest is 22. But just the flavor profile is just unbelievably gorgeous. You know, dried rose petals, potpourri, some cloves, some cinnamon, some hazelnut, Christmas cake, but with an edge to it. I think it's probably my most favorite drinking experience that I had was when I drank this Balvenie Tun 1401. It absolutely blew me away, and if I was to drink this for the rest of my life, I think I'd be a happy camper. But of course we can't do that, because there's no more supply. There's no more 1401s being made, unfortunately. That tun's been retired. But you know what, hats off to Sir David Stewart, my apologies, Sir David Stewart, for putting this thing together. And like I said, it's an absolute essay in perfection and craftsmanship. And if you haven't tried it, see if you can get your hands on it, because I think this one is worth fighting for, in my opinion. So yeah, there you go, my dream one whiskey to have for the rest of my life, with no holds barred, with no caveats, is the Balvenie 1401. Well, in my case, the batch 8. I'd be happy to drink the batch 8. I don't mind the other batches. I've not tried all of them, but I wouldn't mind. But for now, that's the one. That's the winner. Alrighty then, let's get down to the real challenge, which is with certain conditions. You know, it can't be super expensive. That means it can't be too rare. Not too rare. It can't be rare at all, and it should be widely available. And I'm not allowed to drink anything else for the rest of my life. So this was a tough one. This means that I'm supposed to pick a whiskey which is maybe most probably part of a core range, easily available, from a distillery that knows what it's doing, and I can't drink anything else. So this one was a tough ask, but I was surprised at how quickly I sort of came to the one that I was happy to accept as the eventual winner. But again, before we get to that, I have 4 runner-ups that I want to talk to you about, which are also stunning drams that you should try if you haven't. The Glencadam 10-year-old. Yes. I think Glencadam is a very, very underrated distillery. Not many people talk about it, not many people know about it, and I think they really should, because I think they produce some excellent, affordable whiskeys, and I think they should be in every bar. I chose the Glencadam 10 because it's matured in ex-bourbon barrels, bottled at 46%, non-chill filtered, no coloring added, all the good stuff, and extremely affordable, available at any point anywhere. So definitely meets the criteria for the One Whiskey Challenge. But other than that, it is a fantastically crafted whiskey, wonderful flavors, you know, just that butterscotch, vanilla, everything that a good bourbon barrel should impart into a whiskey distillate. It's found in this Glencairn 10. There's of course the Glencairn 14, the 15. Wonderful whiskeys. If you want to pick those up, you should as well. But one of my picks for my runner-ups for my One Whiskey Challenge is the Glencairn 10. And if you haven't tried it, I highly suggest you do. Our next whiskey on this list is something that I fell in love with this year, and it's the Paul John Oloroso Select Cask. Bottled at 48% ABV. This one is matured exclusively in ex-Oloroso sherry casks. And when I opened this bottle for the first time and I nosed it, I knew I was in the presence of something really, really, really special. And then I drank it and it was magnificent, right? The mouthfeel was just, the flavors were on point. That leather, that hint of tobacco, that dark maple syrup, that caramel, that cinnamon, that clove just worked together so flawlessly. You know, and this whiskey made in India, made in the southern part of India in a town called Goa, very close to where Amrut is. Blew my mind. I absolutely adore this wonderful dram. I hope if you can get your hands on it, I really think you should. It is an absolute stunner of a whiskey, and yeah, definitely. If I was to drink this for the rest of my life, I think I'd be okay. The next one, the Port Charlotte 10 heavily peated. Oh man, absolutely just. Like I said, another essay in craftsmanship. So Adam Hannett, who's the new whiskey maker for Bruichladdich after Sir Jim McEwen left, he had to come up with something special, right? He had to come up with something special. He decided to put together a blend from the Bruichladdich warehouse and put together this unbelievable whiskey, the Port Charlotte 10-year-old heavily peated. He used, so what did he do? So this is bottled at 50% ABV. He used about 65% ex-bourbon barrels, 10% second fill bourbon barrels, and 25% second fill French oak barrels to put this concoction together and just produce what is one of my favorite whiskeys that I've had in the last couple of years, or 3 years, I think. It reminded me of old school Ardbegs or Kilchoman done well, and it was that sort of flavor profile. I love the balance on it. It's just, you know, I think I've done a couple of videos on this whiskey. It consistently makes my top 5, as it has in this video. So yeah, and it's again widely available. Get your hands on it because it is scrumptious. Our final runner-up for the One Whiskey Challenge is the Late Check 10-year-old. Oh man, what they're doing at the Tobermory Distillery is absolutely stunning. On the Isle of Mull, this Late Check 10, it was Ralphie's Whiskey of the Year. It was definitely my Whiskey of the Year. Bottled at 46.3% ABV, a mix of ex-bourbon, ex-sherry casks. This is just the right amount of smoke with a little hint of diesel oil, that maritime sea salt from sitting so close to the water, and just packaged wonderfully. This is uncomplicated. When I say uncomplicated, it's an honest whiskey, and it delivers on those flavors with a hint of lemon and lime at the end, and just that overall mouthfeel. Everything about this whiskey is just absolutely stunning. So wonderfully affordable as well. I believe for about 30-35 pounds, depending of course which part of the world you're in. It is a stunning dram from the Tobermory Distillery, and I think everybody should drink this. Everybody without fail should drink this, because it will blow your mind. It will absolutely blow your mind. So yes, my last runner-up in this One Whiskey Challenge is the Late Check 10. And so now, if you're ready, let's get cracking to what the eventual winner is. Okay, let's go. I genuinely didn't have to think long and hard to pick my One Whiskey Challenge winner, and you might not be surprised to know that it's the Deanston 18-year-old. Ah, yes. The Deanston 18, bottled at 46.3% ABV. It's basically matured most of its life in second fill ex-bourbon barrels and then finished off in first fill ex-bourbon barrels and put together in this wonderful delivery. Oh man, we had this blind tasting for my whiskey club where we tasted 5 or 6 18-year-old single malt whiskeys. Everybody drank them blind, and the winner by a mile was the Deanston 18. And again, because it's such perfection in craftsmanship, an honest whiskey that's uncomplicated whiskey making is what I'm talking about. Just distillate that is supreme, that the cask selection is pristine, the timing of getting the liquid out and then finishing it off in first fill ex-bourbon barrels, which I think was a stroke of genius, where the second, in the initial phases, the second fill bourbon sort of slowly and wonderfully gave its flavors to the spirit, and then just right at the end, the first fill sort of amped up everything that the second fill had done, and that combination of these two different cask profiles just created this wonderfully balanced whiskey. 18 years in those barrels mellowed out all the rough edges, and now this wonderful butterscotch and the vanilla and the lemon lime citrus. So many good things about this whiskey, I can't tell you. It's easily available. It's on a slightly higher price point, I think close to about 90-95 pounds. Again, depends on which part of the world you are in. But the Deanston 18, I think, above all of them, if I was to just drink this for the rest of my life and not drink anything else, I'd be absolutely fine. And I'd be more than happy to nurse a Deanston 18 every single day of my life. So, there you go. So there you have it. That was my One Whiskey Challenge pick. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you kind of agreed with some of my selection. I'm happy to put this out there. I'd like to nominate my good friend Whiskey Quests over in Chicago to see what he has to say about the One Whiskey Challenge. So, my man, if there's one whiskey you could drink for the rest of your life, which one will it be? All right. Well, thank you for hanging around, and thank you for listening to my endless droning. I really appreciate every single one of you over here. I'm the Malt Activist. Until next time, peace.